So hey guys, I'm B. Gautami and today we are going to study about graphical presentation of data. Okay, so it's a part of our statistics. Today we will look at graphical presentation of data. Okay, we have already studied about tabular presentation of data, right? How to present the data in tabular form, etc. But today in this session we will study about graphical presentation, right? How to present our statistical data in the form of graph. So let's look at what we are going to discuss about. So first of all, we will look at what is graphical presentation of data. Then we will study about its history, okay, how graphical presentation of data got evolved. Then we will study about its application. Then we will study about its importance, okay. We will study about different types of graphs, and then we will also discuss what are their importance, okay. So first there is a question for you, okay. So let me know that, is this the first time that you guys are studying about graphical presentation of data? Just tell me that, is this the first time? Definitely not, right? We have been studying about graphical presentation like your pie chart, bar chart, then your histogram, etc. while we were in standard 5th, right? While we were studying in class 5th, we have already discovered about pie chart, histogram, right? Pie chart, then your histogram, then your bar graph. We all are having some basic understanding about graphical presentation. But today in this session we will discuss about graphical presentation in a more elaborated way, okay. We will discuss about varieties of graphical presentation, because we all might have known that pie chart, histogram, bar graph, that much is about graphical presentation. But today in this session you will be shocked to know that these are not the limited graphical presentation. I mean that pie chart, histogram, bar chart, graphical presentation is not limited in between these 2 to 3 types or 3 to 5 types graphs. There are more to discover, what we are going to discover today in this session of ours, okay. So let's see. So first is meaning of graphical presentation of data, okay. So what do we mean when we say that graphical presentation of data? Actually, one of the philosopher had said that a picture is more powerful than millions of words, okay. A picture is more powerful, or I can say more effective than millions of words. If I explain somebody with millions of words, and if I show somebody a beautiful picture, then definitely the person is going to remember the picture rather than those millions of words, right? It's hard to understand, recall and memorize the words. However, it's easy to understand an image or a picture, right? That's what the graphical presentation is all about, right? So whenever I talk about pictures, images, etc., then these are actually used literally, right? Let's consider that I'm talking about Alexander, right? I will tell you about Alexander, etc., etc. He was this much height, he had beards, etc., etc. But let's consider I show you the picture of Alexander, right? Then you will definitely remember his appearances, right? You can easily remember that how did he look and how was his facial appearance, etc. So that's the same thing with graphical presentation. Let's consider I will show you a tabular form of data, right? And at the same time I will show you a pie chart. Pie chart is a mathematical picture, okay. So graphical presentation is nothing but it is the mathematical picture. So definitely in between the statistical data and the pie chart, you are going to remember the pie chart easily, right? Because through the pie chart the informations are very easily and very precisely elaborated, right? That's what the graphical presentation is all about, and we can simply say that graphical presentation is nothing but it is a mathematical picture, okay. There are a lot of things written in this slide. If you are interested, then you can note it down and you can read it and you can understand by yourself, okay. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so here are actually some types of slides. So let me know that how many types of slides, actually here are some different types of graphs, okay. So let me know that how many graphs are you able to recognize, okay. So let me know what type of graph is this. Definitely this is the pie chart, okay. And let me know what is this. So this is your bar graph, or this is also known as your column graph, okay? And let me know what is this. This is actually your line chart or line graph. And here are also several types. If you are interested, then you can consider them and try to recognize them also, okay? So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so importance of graphical presentation. Even I know that the spelling of importance is wrong here, but you know, I was in a hurry while I was designing the slides, so just ignore the mistake. Okay, so importance of graphical presentation. So what is the importance actually? So by graphical presentation, I can make the data easily understandable to the common man, right? By looking at the mathematical picture, that is your graphical presentation, a common man who is ignorant about your mathematics can even easily understand that what is there in the pie chart, or what is there in the column graph, or what is there in the bar graph, or what is there in the histogram, right? That is what's the importance, right? It's very easy to understand, it's very easy to precise our information, as well as it's very easy to understand also, right? So that's what the importance of graphical presentation. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so this is the history. Okay, actually there was the person, okay, he was a German mathematician. His name was Royston E in 1970, and he was also known as Chrome. Okay, he was the person to use graphical representation in statistics. Okay, you can say Chrome or Royston E in 1970. He was a German mathematician, was the first person to use this graphical presentation in statistics, okay? And he used to use this as a teaching tool, okay? He used graphical presentation to teach his students, and definitely we can say that he was the first person to introduce graphical presentation in statistics, for whom today we are capable of studying statistics, right? Okay, so let's move to the next slide. So this is your types of graphical presentation of data. First of all, let me confirm you that your data is of two types. One is your ungrouped data and another one is your grouped data. So what is the main difference between your ungrouped data and grouped data? Okay. First of all, I can say that your ungrouped data, okay, your ungrouped data can also be known as your raw data. Okay, this is your raw data. It's not grouped, or I can say it's not arranged, right? And whenever I consider your group data is your arranged data, right? After collection, I have arranged it. That's what about your group data. Okay, so let's see. For your ungrouped data, for presenting your ungrouped data graphically, there are several ways, like your line graph, bar graph, pie diagram, or circle graph. Okay, you can say it pie diagram or pie chart or circle graph, right? Everything is same. Then move to the group data. So for group data, we are having histogram, frequency polygon, frequency curves. Fine. So types of graphical presentation of data. Your data is of two types. One is your ungrouped data and another one is your group data. And we can present the ungrouped data graphically by using these ways, right? Line graph, bar graph, pie diagram, or pie chart, or circle graph. Then histogram, frequency polygon, or frequency curve. And I think that these all types of graphs are known to us, right? We have studied about these all types of graphs. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. So now we will consider types of graphs, right? So first is your univariate graphs, then we are having your frequency distribution graph, and then we are having your multivariate graphs. So let's see what is actually univariate graph. Actually, the name itself says that, right? When I consider univariate, the name itself says that we are considering only one type of variable, right? Univariate means one variable, okay? Univariate means one variable. Just remember it, right? Univariate means I am considering only one variable. Whereas when I say multivariate, then I consider more than one variable. That's what your multivariable. Okay. So when I have to represent univariables, or you can say single variables through graphically, then I can use bar graph, column scatter graph, then dynamite plunger plot, then pie chart, then donut chart, then box and whisker plots. Okay, so to represent your univariate graphs, we are having the following graphical presentations. One is your bar graph, column scatter graph, dynamite plunger plots, then pie chart, then donut chart, and then your box and whisker plots. Fine. So let's move to the next slide. This is your multivariate graphs. Okay, multivariate graphs, the name itself says that there are multivariables, right? There are more than one kind of variables. more than one kind of variables. Okay, this is what your multivariate graphs, and in order to present your multivariate graphs graphically, we can use XY scatter plot, that is also known as your dot plot. Okay, then bubble charts, then radar plots or web chart, then 3D surface plots, then contour plots, then heat maps, then specialist graphs, and then Gantt chart. Definitely the names are shocking, right? We are listening the names for the first time. Oh my god, it's very hard to remember even. So let's see. Okay, oh my god, multivariate graph doesn't end there. It also contains your phylogenetic tree and then is your timeline diagrams. Okay, Gantt chart I have already mentioned about Gantt chart in the previous slide, so I didn't repeat it. Okay. So next, frequency distribution graph. So what is actually frequency distribution graphs? When I talk about frequency distribution graph, I focus more on frequency. Okay, I focus more on frequency. So let me tell you what is frequency actually. So frequency is the number of times the item is repeated. Okay, frequency is the number of times the item is repeated. So let's consider, actually in the upcoming slides we are having a lot of problems. Okay, so there I will tell you that what is the frequency if you are unable to understand what is frequency. Okay, so in frequency distribution graph actually we focus a lot on frequencies. Okay, we can say that we prioritize the frequencies in frequency distribution graphs. Fine. So in order to present the frequency distribution or in order to present the frequencies, we can use histogram, then stem and leaf diagrams, then ogives or cumulative frequency polygons. Okay, so histogram is not new for us, right? We have studied about histograms in our younger classes, and then ogives or cumulative frequency, we have also studied about ogives in our class 9th or 10th, I guess, right? And then stem and leaf diagram is completely new for us, and it's very easy to understand. Okay, not to be worried, I will explain it. So next, so first we will study about frequency distribution graphs. So again I am repeating that when I say about frequency distribution graphs, we focus mainly on the frequencies. Fine. So let's move. Okay. So at first we are having histogram. Okay. So you guys know what? Histogram and pie chart somewhat look similar. Okay, somewhat looks similar, but there is only a minor difference. Okay, there is a very little difference in between your histogram as well as your bar graph or column graph. Okay, your bar graph is also known as your column graph. There is just a very little difference in between your histogram and your bar graph. So may I know what is the difference? Okay, so listen. So your histograms are somewhat like this. Means here the bars or your columns are attached. Okay, here the columns are attached in case of a histogram. Do remember that in case of a histogram, the bars are attached to each other. You can see, right? The bars are attached to each other. But what happens in case of a bar graph? Okay, in case of your bar graph, your columns or your bars are not attached to each other. Fine. Your columns or your bars are not attached to each other, right? So this is the only difference between your histogram as well as your bar graph or column graph. Okay. Okay. So here actually the complete information about histogram is mentioned. So you can say that here we can display the data by using bars of different heights. Actually, what is bar? This is what we call bar, right? So here we use bars of different heights. You can see that this is a smaller bar as comparison to this, right? This is a longer bar. So we present the data using bars of different heights in histogram. Fine. So here you can see that it is also similar to bar chart, etc., etc. Okay. So let's move. You can gather more information about histogram from this slide, but I don't think there are something that I need to explain in this slide. What I needed to explain, I have already explained. Okay, in histogram we are just having bars or columns, and those bars or columns represent the frequency. Okay, so let's move. Then application and importance of histogram. Okay, so first of all, there are no gaps in between the bars in the histogram. Okay, here actually in more elaborated way, application and importance of histogram is mentioned here. You can read it by yourself actually. but yet I will explain a bit about it. So first of all, when somebody looks at the histogram, it becomes very easy for us to compare the data, right? That's what the speciality of your histogram, right? So whenever somebody looks at the histogram, he or she can easily compare the datas, okay, in histogram. So in histogram makes our comparison a bit easier, right? And in the histogram also you can find the mode, okay. By using histogram you can find the mode. So what is actually the mode? The mode is the one which is having the highest frequency, right? So by looking at the bars, okay, so by looking at the bars we can easily say that which one is having the highest frequency, and the one which is having the highest frequency is the modal class, or we can say the mode of that tabular presentation, right? So this is the importance of histogram. Whenever I talk about the importance of all the different types of graphs, you will listen the same thing, right? It makes us easy to understand, right? Graphical presentations make us easy to understand about the statistical data, as well as by using this graphical presentation it's easy to compare the data, right? That's it about all the importance of the graphical presentations, okay? So then have a look at stem and leaf diagrams. So stem and leaf diagrams are actually very easy and interesting, but very easy, okay. So actually here the summarization is done by using the numbers alone, okay. Here we are using only numbers to summarize the data, okay. So let's see how it is actually done. So let's consider we are having what, some data, like let's consider you are having some numbers like 11, 10, 12, 1, 2, 3, okay, then 21, then 22, then 23, etc. Okay, let it be this much, because you know that my phone screen is a bit smaller, so I can write up to this. After that I have also to add I have also to make the table, right? So let's see what you have to do is that. So at first you have to start from the smallest data, okay. At first you have to start from the smallest value. It would be better if you write it if you write it in the ascending order. So let me write it in the ascending order. So first it will be 1, 2, 3, then I am having 10, 11, 12, then 21, 22, 23. Fine. So now you see that how I am presenting the data, okay. So see, 1, 2, 3. So I can write it as 0, 1, 2, 3. Actually I am not having the sufficient space here. Let me erase. Actually writing on screen is very easier rather than erasing them. It's very hard to erase. You know, I can't erase properly. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. So now it's fine. Okay. So listen. Here 1, 2, 3 means what? It can be written as 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. Right? It can be written as 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. Fine. So I have to consider the first digit. So it is the 0, right? Then arrange it as 1, 2, 3. Fine. Then consider 10, 11, 12. So these start from 1, right? So write here 1, then 0, 1, 2, right? 0, 1, 1, 0, 2, 2, 0, 3, 3, right? Then 1, 0, 10, 1, 1, 11, 1, 2, 12. Fine. Then consider 2. So in 2 we are having 21. So 2, 1, 22, 2, 2, then 23, 2, 3. Fine. This is how the stem and leaf diagram is actually run. Isn't it interesting and easier? It might not be interesting, but I find it the easiest one, right? It's the easiest one actually. So here you could represent the 1, 2, 3 like this. Then you can present your what? 10, 11, 12 like this. Then 21, 22, 23 like this. Okay, 1, 0, 10, 1, 1, 11, 1, 2, 12, 0, 1 here 1, 0, 2, 2. Okay, 0, 3, 3. Then 2, 1, 21, 2, 2, 22, and so on. So this is what about your stem and leaf diagram. Okay. So here is a sample, okay, see how it's actually run. 1, 1, so 1, 0 means 10, 10, 10, 11, 11, 13, then 17, 19, okay, 25, 25, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29, 29. So actually what happens, we can easily find the minimum value as well as the maximum value, and we can also find the one which is having the highest frequency, right? Here you can count down. Here 4 is repeated 4 times, right? 2 is repeated 2 times, 1 is repeated 2 times, 10 is repeated 3 times, 11 is repeated 2 times. So we can also find mode, right? Mode is the one which is having the highest frequency. So got it? So by using stem and leaf diagram, so we can easily find the minimum and maximum value as well as mode from the stem and leaf diagrams. So let's move on. Okay, so then comes your ogives. Okay, ogives is also known as your cumulative frequency graph. Okay, cumulative frequency graph. Okay, so now we will study about ogives or cumulative frequency graph. Okay, so now we will start from the cumulative frequency graph. Okay, so by the way, cumulative frequency graph or ogives is very important. So let's move on. So what is actually cumulative frequency graph or your ogive? So it is used to determine how many data values lie above or below a particular value in a data set. Okay, so it's actually used to determine that how many data values lie above or below a particular value in a data set. For which your ogives are of two types. First is your more than ogive, and then is your less than ogive. Okay, less than ogive. So you got it. So in case of less than ogive, we determine that how many values are there below a particular value. Okay, how many values are there below a particular value, that is determined in your less than ogive, and in your more than ogive we determine how many values are there above a particular data set. Okay, that's what about your more than ogive and less than ogive. Okay. So these are actually the steps for how to plot a less than ogive curve. Okay, so these are the steps, by using them we can plot a less than ogive curve. So first of all, start from the upper limit of the class interval. Okay, so you have to take the upper limit of the class interval here. Okay, so here actually the process how to determine the cumulative frequency is actually written here. Actually, so let me explain you first how to determine the cumulative frequencies in less than ogive as well as in more than ogive. Then we will discuss about these all steps. Okay, so after solving a problem, it becomes easier to understand the steps actually. Okay, so let's move to the problem. Then I will explain you that how we plot the ogive curve. Okay, so here is your solved example. So the first is, you can see that here are the marks and here are their frequencies. Okay, so 0 to 10 the frequency is 3, 10 to 25 and so on up to 90 to 100. Okay, so first we have to know that what is the upper limit and what is the lower limit. Fine, so let's consider in 0 to 10. Okay, so the one which is having the lowest value is your lower limit. It's very easy actually. The one which is having the lowest value is your lower limit, and the one which is having your highest value, that is your upper limit. Okay, so the highest value is your upper limit. Okay, this is your upper limit and this is your lower limit. Got it? So we have to be clear what is the upper limit and what is the lower limit. Fine. So here and I was talking about frequency, right? So what is the frequency actually? 0 to 10, 3 means what? In between 0 to 10 there are 3 students who have obtained marks in between 0 to 10. Okay, so let's move. Okay, so here we will learn that how to find the less than cumulative frequency. Okay, So first you have to write the first frequency, then add on. Okay, so 3 plus 5 is your 8, then 8 plus 6 is your 14, then 14 plus 7 is your 21, then 21 plus 8 is your 29, then 29 plus 9 is your 38, then 38 plus 10 is your 48, then 48 plus 12 is your 60, then your 60 plus 6 is your 66, then your 66 plus 4 is your 70. I hope you got it how to find the less than cumulative frequency. Okay, you just have to add on the upcoming frequencies. The first frequency will be same, okay, but the next frequencies you have to add on in order to find the cumulative frequency. Okay, so the first will be the same 3 3, then you keep on adding 3 plus 5 8, 8 plus 6 14, 14 plus 7 21, 21 plus 8 29, then 29 plus 9 38, 38 plus 10 48, 48 plus 12 60, and so on. I hope now you got it that how to find the less than cumulative frequency. Okay, so done. Now we will get into the steps how to plot the less than cumulative frequency. Okay, yeah, less than cumulative frequency graph. Yeah, we can also say that less than type ogive curve. Okay, so first of all you have to find the cumulative frequency distribution. I have already told you that how to find the less than cumulative frequency distribution for the table, right? I have already explained you. Okay, then take the upper. Okay, so what does the term upper mean here? Upper means we have to take the upper limit. Fine, upper means we have to take the upper limit in the x-axis direction. Fine, we have to take the upper limit in the x-axis direction and the cumulative frequency along the y-axis direction. Okay, so you have to take the upper limit in the x-axis direction and the cumulative frequencies in the y-axis direction. I have already showed you, right, what is the upper limit and what is the lower limit. Okay, then you just have to plot the points x and y. Fine, we know how to plot the points, right? So let's consider I am having here 1 2 3 and then I am having here 1 2. So let's consider I have to plot a point 2 1, right? So how shall I plot? So this would be the point 2 1, right? Okay, so you got it that we have to take the upper limit in the x-axis direction and the cumulative frequencies along the y-axis direction. Then we just have to plot the points. Okay, then we have to join the points and it will give rise to a smooth curve. Okay, actually your ogives present a S type of curve. Okay, it gives rise to a shape like S structure. That's why these are also called your S-shaped curve. Okay, S-shaped curve. So fine. So here it was all about your less than ogive curve. Actually there is a trick. In order to present the less than ogive curve, you have to take the upper limit. Actually some construction work is going on near my house, so there might be some type of sound actually, so I apologize for that. Okay, so here we were talking about how to plot the less than cumulative frequency or the less than ogive, and I have told you that here you have to find the less than cumulative frequency or the less than ogive first, and then now I will show you how to present those points. Okay, okay, so listen, here you have to take the upper limits. Fine, so you have to take 10 20 30 40 50 60 70 80 90 100. Okay, so these are your upper limits. Got it? I am again showing you. Leave this person. Okay, leave this person. This is your lower limit, right? So this remaining person is your upper limit. Fine, this remaining person is your upper limit. Okay, so we have to plot the points. Remember, we have to plot the upper limit and the cumulative frequency. Got it? Upper limit and the cumulative frequency. Upper limit, cumulative frequency. Okay, it means 10 3 20 8 30 14 like this. Okay, so 10 3 10 3 28. Okay, so let's move 10 3. So you can see that how the point is plotted here. 10 3, then 28 30 14, then 40 21 50 29, then so on. Okay, so similarly you have to plot the points, and after plotting the points, what you have to do is that you just have to join them. Okay, so it looks like S, right? S-shaped. That's why it is also known as your S-shaped curve, and also known as your less than ogive, as well as your less than cumulative frequency graph. Okay, so let's move on. Now we have to present here the more than cumulative frequency graph, या फिर we can also say it as more than ogive curve. Okay, so the same here also we have to find the cumulative frequency. And sorry, one more thing I forgot to tell you here actually. Yeah, here if you find the summation of n, okay, summation of, okay, let it be f, okay, frequency f, okay, if you find the summation of f, if you add on this all, will be equal to the last one, okay, 70. If whatever you add here should be equal to the last cumulative frequency, okay, so if you try to add on these all numbers, you will get 70. Okay, and here the last number will also be 70, and if you don't get the last number the same as the summation of f or the summation of the frequency, then you should know that you have made some error in the calculations and you have to perform the calculations again. Fine. Okay, actually graphical presentation is a bit harder than I used to think. It's very hard to explain all of the terms and everything, how to plot, etc. I think up to cumulative frequency graph is a bit harder, but after that you will find everything easier, okay? So no need to be worried. Okay, so I have told you that how to plot the less than ogive curve or the less than cumulative frequency graph. Now I will tell you how to plot the more than cumulative frequency graph or the more than ogive, okay? So first of all, the same data with the same frequency is given, but here we have to plot the more than ogive instead of the less than ogive. Okay, so let's see how to find the cumulative frequency for the more than ogive. Okay, so listen, in less than cumulative frequency, in less than ogive, okay, in less than ogive, the last CF was equal to summation of f, okay, the last CF was equal to summation of f, but here the first CF, okay, but here the first cumulative frequency will be equal to the summation of f, okay, here the first frequency will be equal to the summation of f. Then you have to keep on subtracting, so subtract 95 minus 3, 92, 92 minus 5, 87, 87 minus 7, 80, okay, then 80 minus 8, 72, then 72 minus 10, 62, 62 minus 11, 51, then 51 minus 14, 37, 37 minus 19, you're 18, 18 minus 15, you're 3. Okay, so this is how you have to find the cumulative frequency for more than ogive, okay, या फिर more than cumulative frequency graph. So then the same thing, okay, so listen, in the less than ogive, okay, in less than ogive you have to take the upper limit, right? In less than ogive you have to take upper limit, okay, but in more than ogive just the opposite, but in more than ogive you have to take the lower limit, you have to take the lower limit. Fine, so let's see how to plot the graph. Okay, so as I had already said you that you have to take the lower limit here. So the lower limit was like the first range was 0 to 10, right? So here the lower limit was 0. So for lower limit we had the highest cumulative frequency, that was your 95. So you can see that for 0 and 95 are plotted here. Then for 5, 92, then 15, 15, 80, 10, 87. I don't think that I need to tell you how to plot the points on the graph paper, right? It's damn easier to plot the points on the graph paper, but yet if you are unable to understand, then please do ask me. Okay, so this is how to plot the more than cumulative frequency graph. Okay, so now we are finished with the ogive or cumulative frequency graph. Actually, throughout the graph, to explain the cumulative frequency graph is the only harder thing, not the harder but the hardest thing. So now let's have a look at univariate graphs. I have already explained you that univariate means what? Here we will consider one variable at a time, right? Then let's have a look at univariate graphs, types of univariate graphs. Okay, so I had already explained you in my previous slides that what are the types of the univariate graphs, right? So here we will be looking at each of them one by one, okay? So the first is your bar graph, right? I had already explained you that what is the difference between your bar graph and histogram, right? It's very easy to plot bar graph as well as histogram. We know it, right? We know it since our class 5th or 6th. So I don't think that I need to explain the bar graph again, right? And if I keep on explaining bar graph, histogram and everything, then I think my presentation would be 3 hours longer. Okay, so if you are having doubt, then please ask me in the class what is bar graph. Okay, I will explain you there. But it's very easy to plot the bar graph. Okay, so what happens in the bar graph is that you have to plot the frequencies just through the bars or just through the columns. Okay, so there are actually examples. Yeah, here you can see that, right, how the bar graph is actually plotted. So you can see that here is the number of students and here are the number of students from different countries, right? So here the United States is having more than 600. It might be 650, I guess. Okay, it might be 650. Then from Russia we are having 500. Then from South Africa we are having 400. Then from Europe we are having 350. From Canada we are having 390, I guess. Then from Australia 250. Okay, this is Australia. Then from Japan, yeah, maybe 240, 230, like that. Okay, so this is how a vertical bar graph is, and this is what the bar graph is all about. So let's move on. Then is your application and importance of bar chart. I'm again repeating that in application and importance I will be repeating the same thing, that in case of bar graph it is easy to compare, and in case of bar graph it is very easy to present our frequencies, right? It's very easy to understand. The same things I have to repeat. And excess information is also there in this slide. You can read by yourself. Okay, so let's move on. So this is your line chart or line graph. Okay, also line chart or line graph means what? The name itself says that the graph is denoted in line, right? So the graph is something like this. Okay, in line. The line graph contains lines only, that's it. Okay, so here are also the importance of your line graph. Now the same thing. Okay, I can't repeat the same thing again and again. It's easy to compare, it's easy to understand, it's easy it's easy to present our frequencies, etc. Same thing. Okay, so this is how actually the line graph is plotted. Okay, only lines. What you have to do is that first you have to plot the points, then you have to join the points. Okay, you have to join the points. That's it about your line graph. So let's move on. Then comes your area chart. Area chart is as similar to your line chart. Okay, so what you have to do is in line chart, so let's consider this is your line chart. Okay, your line chart is something like this. Okay, so let's consider I am having here two lines, okay, presenting two different frequencies. Okay, so what you have to do is that the area below the line you have to color it. Okay, the area below the line, just color it. Okay, this is what area chart. You just have to color the area below the lines. Fine. Okay, one more easier example actually. Let me tell you here. Okay, so this is what line chart or line graph. So what you have to do in area chart is that just color the area below the line chart. Okay, just color the area below the line chart. Okay, yeah, done. This is your area chart. Okay. Okay, let's move on. So you can see that how the area chart actually looks like. Let's move on. Yeah, then your column graph and column scatter graph. Let me tell you, column graph is same as your bar graph. Okay, column graph and bar graph are purely same. Okay, let's move on. So here you can see, right, column graphs, bar chart, same. Okay, what here your column is vertical. Okay, your column is vertical and bar is your horizontal. That's the only difference. And somewhat most of the people consider column and bar charts as the same. Okay, column and bar charts are purely same, no difference at all. And we can also plot them horizontal, vertical, that doesn't matter. Okay, column and bar charts are purely same. So let's move on. Then is your column scatter plot. So in case of columns, what you have to do is that you have to present the columns. Okay, So in column scatter plots, scatter means dot. Okay, scatter means dot. You have to put some dots. Got it? So let's see. Okay, I have to zoom a bit. Yeah. So I think here is a record of some people, those who are suffering from some diseases. Okay, so untreated. How many people are untreated? You can see this frequency, or you can see these dots. Okay, these dots represent your frequency. So how many people were untreated, how many people were placebo, or how many people were treated. Okay, that's what actually represents this graph. This is column scatter graph. It's very simple. Okay, as you were taking you know how to plot the points, right? You know how to plot the points, and whenever we have to plot some point, we just have to know the values of x and y, right? As simple as this. So same, you just have to plot the points and it becomes easier. Let's consider that this much points are untreated, so you just have to write below them that this much point or this much number is your untreated. Similarly, you can just write below this placebo, and similarly you can write below this treated. Got it? Very simple. I don't think it's hard to understand the column scatter plot. You just have to plot the points, and then you have to what? Classify whether these points are treated. Points means what? These denote some frequencies, right? So whether these frequencies are treated or placebo or untreated, like that. Or you can also present untreated. How many people are untreated? You can present like this. How many people are treated? You can present like this, right? By the way, I don't know what does placebo mean. I forgot to Google. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So this is your dynamite plunger plot. Okay, dynamite plunger plot. So let me know. Have you seen how does a dynamite plunger plot looks like? Okay, this is. Have you seen in cartoons? Typically in Tom and Jerry. Okay, the name of the cartoon is Tom and Jerry. Okay, you might have seen Tom most of the times doing explosion. Okay, when he presses this, okay, when he presses this, actually there is a, what is this? Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. Yeah, so this is actually your dynamite plunger plot. Okay, so you might have seen typically in the Tom and Jerry that whenever the Tom presses this, okay, he just have to press this and there will be an explosion, right? When he presses this, there will be an explosion. So this is what your dynamite plunger plot. Okay, you might have seen in cartoons. Currently I don't have the Mies. I should have the Mies, right? Okay. Yeah. So this is what about your dynamite plunger plot. I have already explained you that what is a dynamite plunger, right? I have already shown you that how does a plunger actually look like. Fine. So what is actually a dynamite plunger plot? Now, if you research and if you Google about it, then you will find it difficult, right? A very less information about dynamite plunger plot is there on the Google, right? Even I have searched about it and I didn't get any kind of information about dynamite plunger plot. So we just actually dynamite plunger plot, we can't plot the dynamite plunger plot in our notebooks, right? These graphs are actually plotted in some kind of softwares. Fine. So let's see actually how a dynamic plunger plot actually looks like, right? So here it is your standard deviation. Okay, here you can see this bar. Okay, this bar is your standard deviation. Fine. And this is your mean. Fine, this is your mean. Okay, let me tell you again that our picture is something like this, right? So this is your standard deviation, and I think we already know that how to find standard deviation, right? And this is what shows our mean. Fine, this much information I know about dynamite plunger plot, and as I have already said you that these type of plots are generally plotted in some kind of softwares. So I am not aware about this plot. So what I know is that this is your standard deviation and this is your mean. So you have to plot the mean here and then the standard deviation of that frequency. Fine, and then you get your dynamite plunger plot. So more information about dynamite plunger plot will be explained by our sir. So let's move on. Actually, it's not my fault. Even I googled it, but I didn't get any information. Okay. So this is your donut chart and this is your box and whisker plots. Okay. Yeah. So here your donut chart is as similar to your pie chart, right? Your pie chart looks something like this, right? So donut chart is also similar to your pie chart. Fine, I will explain you that how does a donut chart actually look like. Then we are having the box and whisker plot. Okay, box and whisker plot is a bit interesting, and I think in our previous class sir has already taught us about the box and whisker plot, but I will again teach you. Fine, so next, also let's move on to the next slide. So this is how the donut chart actually looks like. Isn't it that it looks as similar as the donut, right? That's why its name is donut. And your pie chart is also very similar to this, right? Your pie chart is something like this, right? Somewhat your pie chart looks like this, right? But here the donut chart is a bit different. It looks like the donut. It is in the shape of a donut, right? That's why it is donut chart. So how to represent through the donut chart? By the way, so what happens in the donut chart is that, okay, so here is a pie chart. Okay, so let's consider this is a pie chart. So in pie chart we say this is your 75%. Okay, let it be 75%. So similarly here we show this as the 75%. Okay, let's consider this is 20. So here you show as 20. Let this be 10. So similarly this would be your 10%. Fine, as similar to the pie chart, but it's just different in the shape of the structure, right? It's like a circle. That's why it is also known as your circle graph, but it is in the shape of a donut, for which it is known as your donut chart. So that's what was all about here donut chart. So let's move on. So this is your box and whisker plot. Okay, so first of all we have to know how to plot box and whisker plot. So for plotting the box and whisker plot we need to have 5 things. Okay, so the first is minimum value. Okay, minimum value, then first quartile, then we have to find the median, then we have to find the third quartile. I'm not writing quartile fully, okay, because my font screen is not having that much enough space. And then we are having our maximum. Okay, so here we have to plot the 5 points, the minimum value, then the first quartile, then the median, then the third quartile, and then the maximum, right? So we know how to find the first quartile. First quartile is the 25 percentile. Okay, so let me write it. Your first quartile is your 25 percentile. Okay, then you know what is the median, right? Then is your third quartile, and is your third quartile is what? 75 percentile. So from the given data find the minimum value. Okay, find the minimum value, then find the first quartile, that is your 25 percentile, then find the third quartile, that is your 75 percentile, then median as well as your maximum point. Then it's easy to plot. Fine, so let's take an example. Okay, so here we are having a data 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9, 11. Actually here the minimum value is 2, right? And here your first quartile is 6. Now your question is, how did I know that first quartile is 6? Please do the calculations. I have already done the calculations. Fine, so now you can do the calculation. Then you can also find that the first quartile is your 6. Then here your median is 8. Fine, this is your median. Okay, then we have to find the third quartile, and here your third quartile is this 9. Got it? So this is your minimum value, right? This is your minimum value, and this is your maximum value. Okay, so now we have to plot the graph. Okay, so let's see how to plot the graph. I hope you must have written all the minimum, maximum, everything value that I have explained with the pen, right? So now I will show you how to plot actually. So first of all you have to draw the 2 axes. Fine, so let us take, okay, so let's see how to plot the box and whisker plot. Actually the example that I took previously, or the things that I wrote previously in my previous slide, I can't plot here, right? Because here the values are not same. But here it is a plot which shows the box and whisker plot, right? So I can explain you that which point is what. So here you can see that here it is the minimum point, okay? It means that the graph starts from, or you can say that the frequency starts from the 0. Fine. So here it is your minimum value and this shows your maximum value, right? So your maximum value must be 9 and this is your first quartile, and then this is your median, and this is your third quartile, okay? So this is your minimum value, then this is your first quartile, median, third quartile, and this is your maximum value. Okay, so now let me tell you that how can we plot the box and whisker plot, okay? So first we have to take the two axes, fine. So let's consider this is my minimum point. You guys know how to plot the minimum point, right? I had said you, right? So what was my minimum point? I forgot, okay? Let's consider my minimum point is 2, fine. So let it be that my minimum point is 2, then I have to find out what? Then I have to find out the first quartile, okay? So let it be this is my first quartile. You know how to plot the points, fine. I don't need to explain again and again how to plot the points. So this is my what? This is the minimum value. This is my what? First quartile. Then let it be this is my median, and let it be this is my third quartile, and let it be that this is my maximum value, okay? So first, by using first quartile, median and the third quartile, plot the box, okay? So now we got the rectangular box, then join these points, okay? Join these points. So now your box and whisker plot is ready. Got it? First plot the minimum point, then plot what? Your first quartile, then plot your median, then plot your third quartile, then plot your maximum, okay? Then draw what? A rectangle like this, then join the 2 points. So that's it about your box and whisker plot. So here we finish our box and whisker plot, fine. Then comes our pie chart or pie diagram. It's damn easier, right? We have been studying about pie chart or pie diagram since our class 6th. So I don't think that I need to explain again and again about a pie chart. If I keep on explaining, then I think my presentation would be 2 hours longer. So here how actually a pie chart looks like, and then here is an example. Sorry, okay. So here is an example. You can write this example. You can write the data given here. Then here is the formula how to find the angle of sector. So what is the angle of sector? So let it be this is the pie chart. So I have to draw certain angles, right? So this is what, let's consider this would be 120 degrees. So how do I know that this would be 120 degrees, right? So the formula to find the angle of sector is this. Okay, next comes, so here actually it's written, right? So how to find the angle, then after finding the angle, how to find the percentage. Here the angle is 150 degree and the percentage is 42%. Here the angle is 84 degree and the percent is 23%. And here your angle is 126 degree, however your percentage is 35%. So same again with pie chart or pie diagram. What is the application or importance of pie chart? As I have already said you that it's very easy to precise the information by using a pie chart or your circle graph or your pie diagram, as well as one of the demerits of the pie chart is that is that we can't easily compare all the times. Got it? We can't easily compare. Let's consider I am having a data something like this, okay? So it's very hard to say that which one is present at a maximum level, okay? Which one is present at maximum and which is present at minimum. When all the percentages are a bit similar, or when all the percentages are a bit same, it's very hard to present the data in the pie chart, and it makes the person looking at the pie chart confusing, right? That's what the demerit of the pie chart. However, if I plot the same data by using your histogram or your bar graph, by looking at the graph, by looking at the bars or columns, okay? By looking at the bars or columns, we can easily say that which one is having the maximum value and which one is having the minimum value. But in case of a pie chart, it's confusing if we are having a bit similar values. Okay, so that's what the demerit of the pie chart. Then we are having the multivariate graphs. The term multivariate itself says that we are considering more than one variables at a time. Okay, so here it is an example. See, an example is change in happiness level. Okay, change in happiness level, it's mentioned that your happiness level may change, that's why it is a variable. Then we are having change in income, it is also mentioned that change in income, so your income may change, that's why your income is also a variable. So when we plot change in happiness with respect to change in income, then it is a multivariate graph, right? Why? Because we are taking two variables at a time here. So when we take on consideration one variable at a time, then that is our univariate graph, and when we consider more than one type of variables at a time, then that is our multivariate graph. Fine, या फिर multi-variables whatever. Then see how to plot the multivariate graphs. There are various ways. One is your XY scatter plot, then bubble charts, then radar plots or web chart or spider plots or star plots, then 3D surface plots, then contour plots, then we are having the heat maps. Fine. So first is your XY scatter plot, or it is also known as your dot plots. Okay, so what is XY scatter plot is, you know that it is our x-axis, right? X dash, y dash, right? So in XY scatter plot, it shows the relationship between x and y axis. Fine, it shows the relationship between x and y axis. That's what about your XY scatter plot. Yeah. Your multivariate analysis or your multivariate graphs mainly show the relationship. Okay, or we can also say that these are mainly used to show the correlation of the data. Okay, correlation of the data. Okay, so your multivariate analysis, your multivariate graph is mainly used to show the correlation of the data, as we studied that change in happiness level with respect to the change in income, right? So it is also showing a correlationship between the two variables. Okay, that's what about your XY scatter plot. It shows the scatterness. Okay, the scatterness, or we can say the correlationship in between the x-axis as well as y-axis. Then comes your XYZ plot, and by the way, your XY scatter plot or your XYZ plot, most of the plots after most of the graphical presentations are done actually by some softwares. Okay, I'm not aware about all the softwares, but I know one is your Excel. Okay, one is your Excel, and there are also several softwares which are actually used to plot these kind of graphs, and mainly your XYZ plot. Okay, your XYZ plot is a 3D plot. Okay, 3D plot. So in XY scatter plot, we could relate in between x and y axis, while in XYZ plot we can relate in between x, y and z plot, right? Or we can say that here we are considering three variables at a time and we are noticing their correlation, or we are noticing their changes. Okay, that's what about your XYZ plot. And one more thing that I want to clear you is that please don't get into the deep. Okay, don't go deeply into the topics. Why? Because we have to write the theories, right? And I am not a statistics expert as well. Okay, so just understand the basics, that what we have to write in the examination, because we have to write the theory, and I think whatever I am explaining, it's well enough for the theory. Okay, so let's move on. So this is what about your XYZ plot. Here it actually the graph is bit rotated, right? Otherwise we take x this, y, z. I think the graph is bit rotated. However, we can also take x, y, z like this also. Okay, so then comes our 3D surface plots. 3D surface plot is as similar as XYZ plot. Okay, 3D surface plot means what? Here we are showing the correlationship between the x, y and z axis in a 3D manner, right? Definitely it can be done on our note, right? We can't do it on pen and paper, and that's why we take help of some type of softwares. I have already mentioned you. I know about only one, that is your Excel. There are several which we will discuss later. Okay, so 3D surface plot. Here you can see that the 3D surface plot, what you have to do is that you have to give all the information on the computer, and the computer will automatically show a 3D graph like this, okay, by showing the correlationship between the values or the variables. This is what your 3D surface plot. Okay, so actually this is the 3D surface plot showing the agricultural yield in a hilly area. Okay, so this is what about your 3D surface plot. Then comes your contour plot. Okay, so what is contour actually? When I talk about contour plots, it actually joins the points. It actually joins the points of same value. Joins the points of same value. Fine. What is contour? Generally, contour plot joins the points having same values. Contour plot joins the points having the same value. Joins the points having same value. Fine. So you might have taken consideration the isobars, right? You might have heard about isobars. Isobars means what? The areas having the equal pressure, right? The areas having equal pressure. In physical oceanography, we might have heard about this term many times, right? So that's what is your isobar. So when we join the same points having equal pressure, that is what your contour plot. Okay. Oh shit. Okay. So this is what your contour graph. We have seen this type of graphs in physical oceanography, right? This is what is your contour. The points having the same pressure. Yeah, we can say it joins the points having the same values or equal values. Okay, that was about your contour chart. Then we are having the bubble chart. Okay, bubble chart can be done on note and paper similarly. Okay, in order to present the bubble chart, we have to take the help of several softwares. As I have already mentioned you about Excel, we can also take on consideration of other softwares also. Okay, so in bubble chart, what happens actually? There are some kind of bubbles. Okay, some are short, some are large, some are very small. Okay, so let's see how the bubble chart actually seems. So this is how actually the bubble chart looks like. Okay, so here we are taking three colors, no, three, not three, more than three colors. This is your light green, this is your dark green, this is your dark red, this is your what, which color is it? I think light pink. Okay, there are several colors. Several color means several types of variables, right? And when I talk about their sizes, right, more in size means what? It's larger in quantity, and less in size means what? It's lesser in quantity. Okay, so I think bubble chart is clear to you. When the size of the bubble is more, it means that the quantity is more. When the size of the bubble is small, then you have to think that the quantity is less or the quantity is small. Okay, and we can't plot the bubble, right? Bubble chart on our note. We have to give information to the computer and it will plot the bubble chart. Fine. Okay, so next comes our Gantt chart. Okay, actually Gantt chart is generally used to see the project progress. Okay, to see the progress or to have update about the progress. Generally this is used by the students who are doing PhD as well as research students. Okay, so let's see how actually it looks like. This is how your Gantt chart looks like. Okay, so the first is your identification of sampling collection. So the period given is 3 to 9 months. Similarly, purchase of molecular biology consumables. The period given is 3 to 9 months, I guess. No, it's 3 to 11. Okay, it means you have to identify the sampling that you have located. What's this? Identification of sampling location. Okay, you have to identify the sampling location in between 3 to 9 months. So got it. Identification of sampling location means you have to identify the samplings in between 3 to 9 months, and then you have to purchase of molecular biology consumables, and you have to complete this task in between 3 to 11 months. Okay, this is what actually we can say that this is a planning. Okay, it's like progress. Okay, progress or planning, like you have planned to do something in between 3 to 9 months, or you have planned to do something in between 3 to 11 months. So that's what actually your Gantt chart shows. Gantt chart shows the progress. Fine. So the next is your heat maps. So heat maps are also an extension of XY matrix, or we can say that heat maps shows the correlationship between your different types of axes like your x, y and z axes, and here it also shows the 3D visualization. Okay, by using heat maps we can have the 3D visualization. Yeah, this is how actually the heat maps look like. Actually this is the result of an microarray experiment. Microarray experiment. You can Google about what is a microarray experiment. Fine, you can Google about what is the microarray experiment. And the same heat maps can't be plotted on pen and paper, right? In order to plot the heat maps, we have to take the help of different kind of softwares and the computer. Okay, by using the computer and computer and by using some type of softwares, we can plot the heat map. Actually, it's not that we can't plot these graphs on pen and paper, but it's a bit harder to plot them on pen and paper. Okay, it's a bit easier to plot them on computer. Okay, so this is your heat map. Actually, this is the result of microarray experiment. So here, which are expressed in red color are the genes which are expressed more, and the ones which are expressed in green. Here, red color denotes more expressed gene. Okay, more expressed gene. And here your green color denotes less expressed gene. Less expressed gene. And above it you can see this is your cladogram, or I think phylogenetic tree. Okay, I think biology students can understand it easily, right? This is what phylogenetic tree. And this is your heat map. This is the result of a microarray experiment. Okay, let's move. Yeah, then comes your phylogenetic tree. So what is actually phylogenetic tree? That generally the phylogenetic tree is drawn to show the relationship with our ancestors. Okay, it shows the ancestry relationship. It shows the ancestry relationship. Okay, it shows the ancestry relationship, how we are related to our ancestors, or how we have developed from being monkey or chimpanzee like organisms to a human being, right? So that's what this phylogenetic tree shows actually, right? It shows a relationship between the ancestors and us. Okay, you can see it represents the evolutionary legacies, yeah, for evolutionary changes you can see. Okay, so this is how actually the phylogenetic tree looks like. You have to give the data to the software to plot a phylogenetic tree, and then it will plot the phylogenetic tree, something like this. Okay, so then comes your timeline chart. So the name itself says that. What is timeline chart? It's to what? Timeline chart is generally used to get a record of our time. Okay, timeline chart is generally to have the record that how much time we are located for something, right? How much time we are having to do something. That's what your timeline chart is. Okay, your Gantt chart, your Gantt chart and timeline chart are a bit similar. In Gantt chart also it shows the time located for several tasks. Similarly, your timeline chart also does the same thing. Okay, it also shows the chronological order. Okay, let me tell you the term chronological order. Okay, chronological order means it shows that how something has progressed. Okay, how something has progressed. Let me show you the example. Okay, so this is the timeline chart of construction of mall. Okay, so first the planning begins here. Okay, in between 2011 to 11 to 12. Okay, in between these 2 years timeline begins. Planning begins. Means how to construct the mall or how to make the mall. The timeline the planning begins in between this. Then project structuring and conceptual design begins here, something between this. Okay, then construction begins in between 2013 to 2014. Then property acquisition, meet with investors in between these. Okay, then construction completed. Okay, construction complete. Construction completed 8 by 11. It's the proportion. Okay, 8 by 11 proportion of the construction was completed. Then full store launch. Finally the mall was ready and the mall was launched here. Okay, so this is what the timeline chart of construction of mall. Okay, here the timeline is shown that what has happened chronologically. Chronologically means periodically. Chronologically means periodically. Okay, it shows a record over a period. Okay, it shows a record over a period that what has happened in order to construct the mole or for the construction of mole. Oh my god, thank you guys. Now your graphical presentation of data is completed. Thank you, done.